Days after he quit the Paris climate deal for a second time, US President Donald Trump has now signed an executive order aimed at encouraging plastic use. He has been pitching for plastic drinking straws, essentially pushing back global efforts to phase out single-use plastics and tackle waste.
We're going back to plastic straws. These things don't work. I've had them many times, and on occasion they break, they explode. If something's hot, they don't last very long, like a matter of minutes, sometimes a matter of seconds. It's a ridiculous situation. So we're going back to plastic straws. I think it's okay. And I don't think that plastic's going to affect a shark very much as they're munching their way through the ocean.
Now, that claim by Donald Trump is contradictory to what numbers say. As per the World Wildlife Fund, 1 lakh marine creatures die annually due to plastic pollution. Several researchers have revealed that microplastics are present in our water bodies and they are found in our seafood as well. As Trump stated that paper straws don't work, he walked back on the Biden administration's environmental measures to lower consumption of non-biodegradable single-use plastics that damage ecosystems and contaminate food supplies. The order includes getting rid of paper straws from food service operations, events and packaging by 2027 and from all federal operations by 2035. As per OECD, the amount of plastic waste dumped into the environment is projected to rise from 81 million metric tons in 2020 to as much as 119 million tons in 2040. Following America, remember, not just several US states and cities, but countries across the world had banned plastic straws because they pollute specifically our oceans, waterways, and harm marine life. Supporters of Trump say that plastic straws are only a small part of the problem. The environment is littered with single-use plastic food and beverage containers like water bottles, coffee lids, shopping bags, and much more. Now, the move might seem lucrative for the plastic industry, but obviously its long-term impact on plastic pollution could reverse global efforts. Let's try and talk more about this. I'm joined by David Sofair. He's a Republican strategist joining us from United States of America. I'm also joined by Vimalendhu Jha. He's an environmentalist. Good evening and namaskar to both of you. David Sofair, to you first. And the first and the most obvious question is why? Why is Donald Trump doing what he's doing? Why is he pushing for single-use plastic straws to be used once again when there is a concerted global effort to not use them so that we can prevent plastic pollution as much as possible?
First of all, thank you very much for having me. And secondly, in regards to this new executive order, a lot is to be done with American environmental laws. The Green New Deal has been an absolute failure. If you look at it from an emission standpoint, or from a gross domestic. So, what President Trump has done here is definitely a reversal, and we are in a very interesting phase when it comes to the environment. So we'll have to see how it unfolds.
Vimalendhu Jha, you want to come in on this? Obviously it came in as a rude shock with Donald Trump saying that plastic straws should be back, and the fact that sharks are munching their way through the ocean. They're not impacted much. Obviously, the numbers suggest otherwise. There is clearly a marine life depletion that is happening due to plastic pollution. Vimalendhu, are you able to hear me? Vimalendhu Jha, are you able to hear me?
Sorry, I'm able to hear you, yes?
Yes, the question was for you, Bimlenduja. You're an environmentalist, and obviously it's concerning, and it clearly has come in as a rude shock for Donald Trump to be pushing for plastic straws, to be pushing for single-use plastics, and we know that once it starts in America, it's going to have a trickle-down effect in the entire world.
Absolutely. So, it's very unfortunate that America once again and President Trump in particular has actually pushed for American way of living, and that being more paramount than caring for the planet or caring for our marine life. And marine life here, by the way, when we're talking about straws and plastic and the impact that it has on marine life, it's not a romance for the fish and the shark and the dolphins here. It's also the impact that it actually has on human life. At the end of the day, there's been enough studies done,
Yeah.
and it's so unfortunate that the president of the United States of America doesn't pay heed to all the stories and the studies that's been done by some of the top environmentalists. The greatest organizations and the scientific fraternity has actually talked about the impact that it has. But for him, the fact that plastic straw, the paper straw melts in his mouth is more paramount than children being born with microplastic in their tummy, or newborn fetus, or for that matter, pregnant women having microplastic in their tummy, and all of us in our lives. There's been numerous study by American organizations. Indeed, we've seen a trend. We've seen President Trump withdraw from the Paris agreement in that sense. He's a denialist. He thinks that there's nothing called climate change. There's nothing called marine life. There's nothing called environmental impact. Indeed, for him, and also look at the kind of language. Unfortunately, fine, he's the president of one of the most powerful country of the world, but the kind of language that he's used while he was actually signing on this executive order was very, very unfortunate. It wasn't backed by any particular science. It was based on how it actually melts in his mouth. A president of United States of America making one of the gravest and reversing one of the great efforts that's been taken for last 2 decades at least by several countries. It's taken a lot of effort by various countries to really ban single-use plastic. And for him, melting of paper is a matter of inconvenience, and it doesn't matter if there are mounts and mounts and mountains of plastic in our oceans. As in, of course, there's been study by UN Environment Program, UNEP.
Yeah.
You've talked about World Bank. Many other people, many other organizations, and the most credible ones have talked about the impact that it has. So I'm very sad that I don't know where his policy making is coming from. It's almost as if it's very. Of course, there's an oil lobby. Largely, when we talk about plastic, it's actually fossil fuel and oil that actually promotes and gains from the plastic lobby. But yet again, reversing all the effort that's been taken for several decades to really stop ourselves from 1.5 degrees in terms of warming of our planet, or many other efforts in terms of climate change is very unfortunate. And I would really like to hear from the so-called strategist, because if he strategizes for the Republican, where is it coming from? As an American way of living that can screw the planet?
Yeah. David, you wanna reply to what Bimlenduja is saying? Also, the fact that the reason that President Trump has said is that plastic straws should be brought back is because paper straws melt in his mouth. Perhaps he could have come up with a better solution then, instead of promoting single-use plastic straws.
Sure. So let's get right down to it. So the Paris Climate Accords, right, was a failed collective of countries, and only very few of their countries kept those obligations that was started in 2015. Okay, so let's not talk about the Paris Climate Accords, or as a good thing, because not a lot got accomplished there. Now, when it comes to plastic straws, the bigger issue is deregulation of products, and that's what President Trump has done. So getting America, energy independent is one thing. Now, reversing, some of these things for the environment. On the one hand, I can see some of your points as a scientist, but at the same time, At the same time, we are the party of choice and growth. So, that's it. There are other things as well. We are advancing, the demolishing of the Green New Deal as well, as that has been, the carbon emissions are still way up under the Biden administration. And the other thing is with President Trump is we deal in.
David, Donald Trump has just made a post and he said that I'm instructing Secretary Lee Zeldin to immediately go back to my environmental orders, which were terminated by Biden, on water standards and flow pertaining to sinks, showers, toilets, washing machines, and dishwashers, and that light bulbs should be bought back. It's clearly, not limiting that water usage that the Biden administration had done over the past few years. The Trump presidency is putting off that cap, that limit that water usage had on American consumers. How is that related to working towards environment? How do you categorize that as the fact that your government is trying to do something for the environment? Clearly, you're doing everything that goes against the environment.
So how did the water shortage work out in California, where there wasn't any water in the wells or in the fire hydrants? So it's not good. We are the party of deregulation, and so we'll also see your points about single-use plastics and etc. We are deregulating a lot of the Green New Deal and certainly the failed Paris Climate Accord.
Vimlendu, one of the reasons that a lot of European countries give and a lot of supporters of plastic straws and, single-use plastics give is that single-use plastics are a very minute reason for the kind of marine pollution that we see. Overfishing, industrialization, air pollution, these are the things that have a much larger impact and are a much bigger cause for the environmental degradation that we see today and we're all grappling with than perhaps single-use plastic.
Absolutely, no doubt. As in, nobody's saying that single-use plastic is the single most important environmental challenge that the planet is facing. Nobody's ever claimed that. As in, you and I have spoken about in Indian context 100 times about air pollution, about Yamuna, about heat waves, about many other issues. But here, as you rightly said in the beginning of the program, that when the President of the United States of America actually talks about that, single-use plastic to be the best thing to do, or for that matter, taking long showers is a virtue in that sense. It really puts forth not just, we need to understand that this is not just about the impact or of environment or on environment. We're also talking about the kind of narrative that you want to peddle going on. As in, for last 10 minutes that I've been on your show, there's been nothing that's actually come from David, unfortunately, in terms of, be it Paris Accord or environment. We need to understand that America and European countries are historical polluters. We're not even going into Paris Accord conversation or climate change conversation and their responsibility and accountability with respect to technology transfer or resource or compensation, both, as in forget about mitigation and adaptation in that sense. Here, very, very specifically, this is a loss and lack of common sense that we actually see on the part of the American president here, and no logic given. As in, we expected something more from so-called world leader, because this is not called leadership. This is just, unfortunately, I can't use certain words on this show, but it's very, very unfortunate, not based on science. It's whataboutery of a different level. Indeed, other issues have to be dealt with. We have to, we need to understand that global warming has local ramifications and also local causes, and we all need to work on those local causes. But when we have to build a narrative to, for the world, for each other, and also for global environment, then tomorrow, what will stop India to say that
Vimlendu,
we
then
want
let
to
me ask
burn
you.
coal rest of our life? We can therefore withdraw from net
Yeah,
zero
let me
because
also
coal is very,
ask you
very
then,
important for
Vimlendu,
us.
how concerned are you? Yeah. How concerned are you as an environmentalist then when the American president talks about such things, when he's when he's withdrawn from the Paris climate deal, when he's pushing for single-use plastic? Obviously, that will have a ripple effect on the entire world. Or do you think that the countries will exercise their own wisdom and go on and go forth as per their needs and requirements?
I think, Shreya, America and Americans will actually exercise their own wisdom. You know, again, as in the word that comes to my, I'm not able to use it, but this kind of executive orders that we are actually talking about is not going to stand. As in Americans are much more. There are lots of Americans who actually think that the way Trump is bringing in these kind of orders are really, really stupid, if I could just use the mildest of term. And I don't think that's in the countries like India. Like, for example, for us, plastic, nobody needs to tell us whether plastic is good or bad. Go to Gazipur landfill and you'll see what it is. Go to our Ganga, go to our different areas, and the impact that it has, it's clearly visible. So we do not need a non-knowledgeable, arrogant, unscientific, real estate czar to tell us, and perhaps an agent, I should also therefore say, of oil and gas industry to say that let's get back to plastic because paper melts in my mouth. And that's the reason of one of the most powerful, or the most powerful person on this planet thinks that saving the planet is not important. The feel that he gets on his lips of a plastic straw is more important. So sad.
So are you saying, Vimlendu, that it is perhaps a dominant effect of the oil and gas industry that has made Donald Trump say and do what he's doing now?
Is that question for me?
Vimlendu, are you able to hear me?
Is that for
Yes,
me?
yes, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes,
Sometimes
Vimlendu,
when
go
you look
ahead.
at President Trump and his decisions, and not just about this one, but many others, it could be driven by a lobby, but more than that, as in sometimes, uh, some of them are very, very retarded decisions, as in that's the mildest term that I could use. And I don't think it could be there. Of course, for him, like what David said, that growth and progress is what Trump is looking at. As the richest country of the world, actually still looking for growth and progress as their main denominator. And for a country like us, we should actually be giving up our coal and our fossil fuel and our population and everything so that the world breathes a little lighter. Too rich on their part. I think indeed there could be a lobby, but more than that, there's lack of common sense. There is, of course, lobbies that are operating, but also understanding. I think President Trump or people, his inner circle or his coterie, needs to start, getting beyond their White House or their ivory towers or Trump Tower or whichever tower that they live in, to understand that there are people and who actually share this planet of different kinds, of different economies and social strata.
Okay.
And this planet is also shared by other beings. Just because human beings have actually, have taken over a lot of our system or ecosystem, that doesn't mean our sharks are chewing away. Incoherent is what I would say. Stupid is another. Doesn't make any sense. As in, I could have understood that a
Okay.
Republican lobby
Okay, before
would
I
have
wrap up,
talked about very,
let me
very
get David to
empirically.
respond to you, and then I wrap this discussion up. Yeah. David, quickly, if you want to respond to Vimlendu, and then I wrap this discussion up.
Sure, absolutely. So, and what we have to keep in mind here is just remember there is not a viable, sustainable alternative to fossil fuels at this moment in time. Secondly, yes, the party is about deregulation when it comes to energy and production, right? So that's happening too. Now, am I a huge proponent of single-use plastic? No. Okay. Thirdly, let's go back to the Paris climate change and all that stuff. It is none of the very few of the countries were actually compliant in that as well. So it's fair to say that as well. it's a failed, it's a failed collective, unfortunately. And I think, overall, I think it will end up getting dissolved somehow. Also, so that's those are the key points. And America has the largest recycling program in the world as well.
Okay.
When it comes to glass, plastic, and oil as well.
Okay. I'm sorry, David. This doesn't justify any of what Donald Trump is doing, any of what he's been saying as far as plastic straws are concerned and the push for the single-use plastic is concerned. But I'll wrap it up here. David Sofair and Wim Lenduja, thank you very much to both of you for joining us tonight and sharing your perspective. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to our second conversation. And this is regarding the India-France relationship. India has had a strategic partnership with France since several decades. It is one of the